Hello and welcome to the Yarnings podcast. I'm Christine and I'll be your host. This is episode 41. I'm calling it Holiday Knitting. It is Tuesday, December 30th, 2014. We've still got a few days left of the year, just barely a few days. The sun is actually shining outside, but it is very cold and I do not need to go out there. It is only 34 degrees. It is not that cold in our house, luckily. But my husband was out in it last night and it was pretty cold then and it's colder today. So hopefully he has stayed bundled up during his commute and on his way home. So, Christmas is over. I still have Christmas lights going and I've still got the tree up and all of that, and we are enjoying the last of the Christmas cookies, although they might last a little while longer because it is a pretty big pile. I've got the lights on the nativity in the shelves downstairs. I've got another set of these downstairs, and I have the nativity set up in one of those and little snowflake lights lighting them. So that's all still turned on. The Christmas lights in the bedroom, I've been turning them on every morning just because it makes me cheery, and I don't need to take them down quite yet. We'll probably do that sometime over the weekend, or we might leave them up for another week. It won't go on forever, but we might get to enjoy it a little bit longer with other things happening. So, yeah, let's move into the actual life stories. It really feels like it's been a million years since I talked to you guys. It's only been a week, but the last week has been so full that it's hard to encapsulate all the things that have happened. We had a very nice Christmas. My husband and I did a bunch of fun things surrounding the actual day. Christmas Eve is when we celebrate with my family. We went to church service and then went to my parents' house to see all of the siblings and the nieces and nephews, and it was really fun to get to see the big smiles on their faces and get to spend time giving a little extra love to them because I don't see them all the time. Michelle is... There we go. Let's fix that. And then Christmas Day, I got to spend the day with Eric, and that was very nice. We don't often get to just spend Christmas ourselves. I looked it up, and it had been since 2011 that we had Christmas just the two of us. And this Post-it note is in the way. Sorry, I feel a little distracted today, so I'm going to do my best to not let those distractions happen. No guarantees. You guys know my silly giggliness by this point. And if you're new, welcome to the show. So, I think I will sprinkle other life story things that I got, that kind of stuff throughout the show. So, let's move into the yarnings. Alright, I have a finished object. Well, nearly. I made a flower and was going to attach it on. This is the Reiki hat I was working on last week, with a little bit of a modification of the top being stockinette, because when I was working on it during the podcast, I missed a row of purling, and so it just turned into a hat with a stockinette top, which worked out just fine. It's a little bit short because I didn't have enough yarn. That's where the seam is. You can see that should be in the back, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it because it's not as slouchy as I would normally like, but it may go to my niece. I made just a little teeny tiny flower with the leftover yarn. I had 3 yards of yarn left, and I was going to attach this on there because I always like that little extra touch. Maybe just pull the ends through and tie a knot, tie a little bow in the back so that it could be taken off if it wasn't if it didn't want to be on. But it's a really nice pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. I just should have done it with a little more yarn. It's in Blue Moon Fiber Arts Socks That Rock Heavyweight, which is the DK version of Socks That Rock. And I weighed what I had left from the baby vertebrae I made, and knew it would be pretty close. So it wasn't really that much of a surprise that I was running out, but I'm glad that I had enough to bind off. So that was my finished object for the week, even though it was kind of short. I think I actually finished it while I was editing the podcast last week. So that happened early on in the progress of things, and I had to even look up the date in my Ravelry project page to remember that it was finished in the last week. I also spent a bit of time on my socks. I have heels. There are two beautiful fish lip kiss heels. I love how they work out in variegated yarn. It's always so much fun to see how they're going to work up. You can also see the bottoms of them where I reinforced, and I've just kind of continued on the stripe pattern that I was playing with, and I have an idea for what I'm going to do once it gets up a little higher. I am only 5 rows after the heel, so I did the heel. I knew I needed to sit down and spend some time to do that in the right spot, so I did that. So now it will be easy knitting for conversations. I might bring them with me to New Year's Eve. All right, back in their bag they go, in my Just a Bee bag. I don't think, I haven't touched my Fruju Daybreak at all. It sat on my shelf right here where I left it, so it has not had any love. So let's say no work. So then when I link it, I will remember. But I did cast on something new. I will jump ahead on my list here. When I was up, I've been having an interesting time sleeping lately. So I was up in the middle of the night on Christmas Eve morning, and realized I had some yarn that would work really nice Christmassy. This is some yarn. This is Serenity Yarn Sock Options Good Harbor in the Romance colorway. And I think they've changed their name to Mad Color Fiber Arts since this was tagged. I got this yarn from Jennifer of Daisy Knits. It wasn't her colors, and she traded for it, or it was in the swap at Zombie the Apocalypse. And so she asked if I was interested in it, and I said yes. And it is an interesting combo. It is 70% superwash merino and 30% sea-cell. And so I wasn't sure how well it would wear as socks, but I thought it would make a really nice hat. So, sockhead hat to the rescue. I needed something on Christmas Eve to work on that was totally mindless. My socks were almost to the heel, so those were out. The Fruju Daybreak is it still takes a little bit of concentration. And so from my last sockhead hat, I knew how mindless it was. And so I cast it on that morning. I brought it with me to the church service. That always gives me a little extra concentration on what is happening if I have knitting in my hands. That works for some people. It doesn't work for other people. I try and keep it to stuff that can stay in my lap pretty easily and not sidetrack anybody else. But it really does help me to concentrate. So I brought it with me to the service, and then I brought it with me to Christmas Eve, and I knit on it a bit during our gathering. I brought it with me while playing games a few times, and then that stitch is just a little long. Then I brought it when we went and saw The Hobbit. And I put on a good 2 inches while we were in the movie, and that was perfect. So this is a great hat for that. And I have another little topic that I want to talk about here, and this is one of the good examples of it. So I'll come back to that. So sockhead hat, I don't know how many inches I have. I think you have to go to 9 inches before you start the top. So I still have plenty of yarn though. So I might make something matching, maybe some matching wristers or something, but it will be my Christmas hat to wear next year. If we go back to Tuba Christmas or any of those outdoor events, this will be a great seasonal hat because it really does have beautiful colors in it. And it's not so traditional red and green. It's got a lot of burgundy, and the green is a nice muted green. It's not the bright Kelly green all over the place. So it's still a very nice, not just traditional Christmas colors. You guys know me and my love for alternate colors. So that got some good progress on it. But the thing that got the most progress, is this where I'm at in my list? Yes. This is kind of crazy pants. This is the tunic that I'm working on. Sleeves are on holders, so they won't be quite that pointy. I'm going to see if I can turn my light a little bit so you guys can see the color a little better. Well, it's still pretty blown out there. It's a nice charcoaly purple in real life without the computer blue in it. I'm going to stand up so you can see where I'm at in this. I don't think I can show you the whole thing. So this is going to be tunic, almost miniskirt dress length to wear with leggings or skinny jeans. I started out with the Emmeline pattern. I'll show you what that looked like. I might have showed you this last week, but I'll show you again. I think I did. Hello, I'm clicking. So that's the Emmeline. So I did basically the top of it. I noticed that a lot of people had overly increased the bust, and it looked too floofy right here. So I didn't do quite as many increases in the bodice as it called for, and that worked out okay. And then I did a fancy little stitch pattern right under bust. So when I wear it with a tank underneath it, that will show through because there's actually little holes in there. And then I started increasing. And I started increasing. And I started increasing. And I did a panel of increasing ribbing down the side. So it's going to really float around me really nicely. It's snug right here around my underbust, and then it goes out from there. So I think it's going to be really flattering. And right now, I'm doing a broken rib on the bottom to kind of, there's the rib panel, but then it's broken rib for those 6 rows so far there. And I'm going to do maybe another couple inches and then do a couple rows of garter stitch to tie it together because the top started with garter stitch. I have to get it close for it to really focus. So the top started with garter stitch, and the trim in the middle has garter stitch in it. So I want to make sure I tie all that together. So there is a very small chance that this will be my final project of the year. I still have to do the sleeves, but maybe. I mean, the bottom, I definitely can finish the bottom tonight. The sleeves are going to be short sleeves, so it's not too many more rows. I did also adjust that. The pattern had you do the sleeves, both sleeves, and then go on to the body. So I just added the underarm stitches and started there because I didn't know exactly how I was going to want the sleeves yet. And when I put things on holders like this, I tie whatever yarn I have in there to kind of keep it secure. That works better when I'm trying it on and off. And see, I see this one came undone because I've been trying it on so frequently right now to see where I'm at. So I have done a lot of knitting on this. You guys saw it last week when it was just at underbust. I have done a lot of knitting on it. I alternated skeins for most of the body of it. I did the top in one skein. And I don't see too big of a difference, but I still wanted to do that just to make sure. And now that I'm doing the trim on the bottom, I'm doing that with just one skein. I still have a ton of yarn left, even making it a tunic length dress. So I'm not sure what I'll do with the rest of it, but this has been my main holiday knitting for when I've been at home. As you'll hear in the sagas of geekery, we watched a lot of movies, and the ones that we watched in the house, I did quite a bit of knitting during. So there were a couple days that my wrists were a little sore. I may not have stretched as much as I should have some of the days, but I'm trying to do a little better about that. So that is my big holiday knitting, and I will hopefully have a finished object to show you guys next week. All right, I also had a little stash enhancement that I meant to show you guys last week. This is my very first Vine yarns. This is her Smitten DK in the colorway Fairy Hair. It is merino nylon cashmere, and it's a DK weight. And I am going to totally copy Kristen, who is the brains behind Vine Yarns and the hostess of the Yarngasm podcast. And we have known each other online for quite some time. But she made a hat called the Beeswax hat out of some of her DK. And I thought I was getting the one with sparkles, but I didn't. That was totally user error. So I may have mentioned on Instagram that I was getting the sparkly yarn. So she made the hat version of this. I am going to make the cowl version of this. And it is beautiful. It's called the Beeswax Cowl, and it is by Amy Vanderlaar. I think that's probably how you say it, Vanderlaar. And I am quite excited about this pattern, and I'm very excited about this yarn. This color makes my skin sing. I think it is perfect for me. It's going to look really nice as a cowl. It is super soft, and I cannot wait to knit with it. So this will be very eminently cast on. Right now it's at the top of my queue. So when I get a little bit of other things finished up, this will be the next thing. And she sent it with very cute little bag of candy and in a purple packaging envelope. I thought that was so perfect. Oops, and I just lost my lollipop. I already ate the other candy in there. So yay, that was my stash enhancement from a week and a half or so ago. This is when I got it. So Okay, I also have a needle adjacent, a sample that I'm going to be working on, and that needs to be swatched and cast on pretty soon. So keep going on all the things. In knitting community today, I did want to talk a little bit about conversation knits. I know that other podcasters call things autopilot, mindless knitting. I don't like that term. I think autopilot is Knitwork Girl's solution for nomenclature of what it could be called. I've started thinking of it as conversation knitting, stuff that I can knit on and talk at the same time. And when I have plain vanilla socks, that works really great for conversation knitting. Obviously, the sockhead hat, the Reiki hat, those work really well. I asked on Instagram what other people thought would be good conversation knitting, and I heard several responses of sockhead, hitchhiker. Hitchhiker would be really good. I need to learn the trick with the stitch marker for counting the 8 stitches. So each tooth, so you don't have to count every time. I know there's supposed to be a trick to make it easier to count that. And then that would make that pretty good. Other people said socks. The Zilver shawl, which I don't remember what that one looks like. I know that in the early days of single-handed knits, Mel made a Zilver shawl. And that's, but I can't remember which shape that one is. Somebody also suggested the Yowza Weigh It shawl. And that one, I think you knit until you get to halfway and then change what you're doing. And that would be really good until you were close to halfway, and then you needed to be weighing it. Somebody else said the Spectra shawl. That one I'm not so familiar with. I think I know which one it is. For me, when I'm knitting, so there's conversation knitting for me, and then there's things like movie knitting, where it needs to be easy enough for me to do where I can't always see what I'm doing. So while we were at the Hobbit, I worked on the sockhead hat, and that was perfect. I really was able to zoom and get some good knitting time in while I watched the movie. My socks would have been too complicated because I do have a stitch pattern, and doing them 2 at a time makes it a little harder. So perhaps doing socks 1 at a time in plain stockinette would be a good option for that for me. Another thing I thought of was Erica Hernandez, who is Erica H64 on Ravelry. She has a bag band grocery bag, and you knit the bottom of it square, and then you start knitting in the round. And that would be a great one once you start knitting in the round. And I have a lot of cotton that I don't really have a purpose for. I have a lot of black cotton, which is harder to see, but if you were knitting it in a movie theater, it might not matter. You really, if you hold up your stitches and see, oh, am I at the right spot, it's not going to matter so much what color it is, probably. The baby vertebrae is another nice one once you get past the separating of the arms, because you knit very simply, stockinette mostly. So another thing I thought of was there are some patterns for scarves that you knit in the round. That would be a really easy option. Doing that with something like the Cyborg's Craft Room that is self-striping. That might be a good option for that, to do it a scarf that just is worked in the round and then it's flat, then you wear it flat. So those are some ideas I had. I would really love to hear what you guys think. Maybe we should do a conversation knit along after the new year. So I'm going to start a thread, and you guys can go and post some of your ideas if you have links to some of the projects you've made that work really well for knitting while you're talking to people. The knitting while you're in a movie is maybe a slightly different topic, but knitting while you're talking to people. Let's get that conversation going, the conversation about conversation knits, and then we'll think about a knit along in the new year. Okay, sound good? All right. So I think we will move out of the yarnings and into Sagas of Geekery. I played a lot of games this week. We also did some Lego building. We got some Legos from my mother-in-law. My husband got a cup holder that you build, and I got another Lego friend, the girly Legos, and I have one that is Lego Christine. I found one that looks mostly like me, and so now Lego Christine has a friend. She doesn't have a name yet, but she has a squirrel, and her squirrel's name is Shiny. Ooh, Shiny, little squirrel. So I need to think up a great name for Lego Christine's friend so that they can have little adventures on the table with their one of them has, Lego Christine has a car, and Lego Christine's friend has a little mountain hut. So right now, they are sitting on our dining room table. I have fun with that kind of stuff. It makes me giggle when I see it. So I may end up with a whole little section of my table with Legos on it, and I'm good with that. With silly girly Legos, and I'm good with that too. I don't think that you have to have girly Legos if you're a girl. I'm just really amused by some of the scenes and some of the characters in these, and so I've been enjoying looking at the different options for them. We also did a puzzle. It was a puzzle that we'd gotten for Christmas a few years back, and we had never done it. And so we set up the card table and worked on that throughout the week, and that turned out really good and was lots of fun. Then, for board games, we bought ourselves a game. Oh, here, I'm at a stitch marker. I want to show you this. So I have these stitch markers from Plover Designs. They are a local to me company, and actually the wife of the team works with my husband. And they have a short loop, a small loop, and a big loop. And because I'm working with big needles, I needed ones that were big enough. I've used them on the short side for smaller projects, but I didn't have one that was different. So I took a locking stitch marker from Girl Cave Bags that she had, Susan, at Zombie Apocalypse last year, and attached it onto the hoop. And that worked really well for marking the start of my row. So there you go, little side note. So we bought a game for ourselves. We don't do a lot of presents from Eric and I to each other, and so we picked out a game a couple weeks ago and put it under the tree. We got the game Istanbul, and it is really cool. The board changes every time, and it is kind of a worker placement, kind of a resource management. You are trying to get gems, and there are a variety of ways to do that, and a lot of other things you need to do to get the gems. And so at some point I'll try and show you a little picture of it, but it is really great. So we played that several times. We also played World Without End, which is based on a book by Robert Follett, I want to say, and that's one that we've had forever. And then we went to Dice Age, which is our very local game store. It is a couple miles from here in Vancouver, and played some of the games on the shelf because I hadn't been in there lately to play the newer games that they have in the library. And we played Machikoro, which is a very cute little game. It has a really cute graphics, and the graphics remind me of the game Katamari Damacy, I don't know. It was a game that I played, back in my blogging years. Some of the people that I worked with at the blogging company would talk about it because it was kind of less mainstream kind of game. And you were a big ball and you rolled up all the things in the world. So the art from Machikoro totally reminded me of the happy Katamari stuff. So it was a cute game. It would be really great to bring out and play between other bigger games. So that was a fun one to try out. We tried out Monolith. That one wasn't so fun. And then we tried out Oddville. And that one was super cute. I would totally think about getting that one. I'd like to try it again. And then what day was that? We came home and did another gaming day and played Caverna, which is huge and epic and awesome because there are so many pieces. It's by the same designer as Agricola. You might hear some people call it Agricola. I pronounce it the way I heard it the first time. And so Caverna, I think, is a slightly improved version of Agricola. And then we played Istanbul again. So it was definitely a game-heavy weekend. Eric had days that he worked from home, and so he didn't have his long commute. And so it was a really, really nice opportunity to get to spend time with him. We also spent time watching movies. Like I said, with knitting on this, I got to bake cookies while watching White Christmas after I finished the podcast last Tuesday. We watched Last Action Hero, which I'd never seen, but I was hoping to watch something along the lines of Die Hard, and that was one Eric had suggested, and that was fun. I read that Truman Show was leaving Netflix, and so we watched that. We hadn't seen that since the theaters. We watched some Firefly. We got the end of Firefly. So sad that it was the end. We've watched it a gazillion times, but this was the watching, the rewatch, and we will watch Serenity next. And I always cry watching Serenity. And then we watched Knight's Tale. That was fun. Somebody had said something about the music in it, and it reminded me that I'd wanted to see it. And then I'd seen an article about 10 Things I Hate About You, and it reminded me, oh yeah, Knight's Tale is on Netflix. And then we saw The Hobbit in the theater, Battle of the Five Armies. It was good. I hadn't read any of the books, so I didn't have that point of comparison. The action was pretty phenomenal. I really liked Toriel, played by Evangeline Lilly, and yeah, it was fun. It was sad, and it had good action, and it had a good story, and I enjoyed it. We started a new book. We're listening to the next Discworld book, which is Going Postal. I'm enjoying that a lot. So there's been a lot of entertainment, a lot of geekiness. I got Eric a Discworld book that we want to look through and a Discworld mug. So there was a little bit of a theme to some of his presents. So I think that's the end of my sagas of geekery for the moment. Let's move on to the book of cooking. The book of cooking, let's see. We made exciting breakfast on Christmas morning. Christmas morning we did biscuits and gravy. We did Alden Brown's biscuits, and I found a recipe for a vegetarian gravy that used Morningstar sausage patties, and then I just kind of made it my own. A nice peppery, garlicky version of a white sauce, and then added in the sausage patties, and it turned out really good. Served it with some parsley. when we made the biscuits, we made them heart-shaped because that was fun. And eggs and coffee and cocoa, and so that was a really nice Christmas treat. We made Eric's favorite corn casserole to go with our dinner on Christmas Day as well. And I made the last batch of cookies that I was talking about last week, and I think that was the end of my treat making. There is still a lot of cookies. And I read a new cookbook, and I'll just show it to you guys real quick. This was from the library, called The Flying Brownie. And it's all about treats, some savory, mostly sweet, that you can send. And it has a whole section about how to ship. And so it was a really fun one. We looked through a lot of the recipes. It is a library copy, and there's a lot of cookie dough in the page, sticking the pages together. So that was a little unfortunate. But there are definitely some things in here that I would like to bake. So I thought I'd point that out. It's called The Flying Brownie by Shirley Fan, F-A-N. Okay, let's keep on going here. I've got Fanciful Chatter. I got some nail wraps for my sister for Christmas. These are the awesome knit ones that you all have probably seen other people wear. And I wasn't so sure about these. I have a tendency to bite my nails. I am hard on my nails. I'm always doing something with my hands, dishes, and so they break easy. So I haven't decided when I'm going to try these. I got those, and then I got some polka dots. I haven't decided when I'll try these, but it will be an interesting test to see how they work on my nails. I have a lot of people in my Facebook feed that sell them, and so I definitely have access to them, but I hadn't decided that I wanted to try them. So now I have some. I can play with those, but I do like that they are the knitting print. And today I'm a little fancy. I have some of my Sweet Libertine mineral eyeshadow on and one of my favorite lipsticks. Just to be fancy for you guys. I am wearing, color is kind of blown out on this blue. It is a blue purple, actually, with sparkles in it. This is the Ebb Tide shawl. I knit this quite a while back. I would have to look it up, but I cast it on during a game storm. So I want to say 2011, because, yeah. And I like wearing it like this because it is a shorter shawl. And so it doesn't work as well wearing it this way. It works, but you can't see the detail. The yarn is Huckleberry Knits Silk and Silver, which is the same as what I used for the shawl I showed you guys last week. And I love her stuff. The color of it, the blue purple, is called Echo. And it was, when I bought it, it was at the time that Dollhouse was still on, and the main character, played by Eliza Dushku, her character name was Echo. And so I called it my Echo Tide instead of my Ebb Tide on my project page, because I thought that was just a clever thing, and I may have bought it because of the name. But it is a beautiful color. I bought it at an Oregon Flock and Fiber. I love her yarn. It's always so much fun to work with. So that's what I'm wearing today. And I wore a lot of my favorite outfits this week. That's one of those comforting things to me, is getting to wear some of my favorite things when I'm in situations that aren't regular, the things that are not normal to me. So I wore my birthday dress and my pink citron shawl. I wore my custom fit sweater and my Color Affection. That turned out to be a really nice outfit. I wore my Rhinebeck sweater and my Haruni shawl, which I wasn't sure how that would work, but it turned out nice. And yesterday I wore my Beekeeper's tank and my A Angel shawl. even though they are so similar but not quite the same, it worked out. And then I wear the socks that match the shawl. So I have been fancy. It's been a fancy week. Today is a little less fancy than all of the other exciting days. Okay, what else is on my list here? The happiness continues. So I've just had a much more celebratory Christmas season than I anticipated. I really was able to enjoy all of the events and the colors and the lights, and that made me really happy. I have plans and goals to keep working on the way that I care for myself in the new year. Not really changes, just continuing on in the way that I've been working, and just to keep learning more about myself and how to be the best version of Christine, or how to just be Christine. Maybe not even better, just me. And that's a really exciting prospect. Next week, I may talk a little more about my recap of my knitting year and some of my goals for the coming year. That is not all put together yet, but I have some ideas. And I know that last year I did a post with knitting resolutions, so I can look back at that and compare. So that will be exciting, and that will be a happy thing. So I think with all of that said, it was a lot of talking, and I didn't even bring a drink upstairs with me today. It's time to go take care of that. So with all that talking, I think I'm going to give you the final information here. You can follow me around on the internet. I am Christine on Ravelry with a K. I am KDLB, just the letters, on Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. On Facebook, we have a fan page for the podcast, and that is facebook.com/yarnings. You can search for the Yarnings podcast group in the Ravelry forum, and I would love to have you introduce yourself. And you can find the show notes and links to everything that we talked about today at yarningspodcast.com. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for spending your time with me over this holiday season, or whenever you get a chance to watch it. I am really blessed to be able to share my life with you and get to learn a little bit more about you guys in the process. So until next time, that's the story. Bye.